Hey everybody, it's Baseball435 here, and I'm back with the next video on the Java tutorial series. This is video 4, I'm pretty sure. And in this video, we're going to start doing collisions and stuff like that between the player and different, like we're going to add in enemies and stuff like that. And yes, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is going to make the speed a little bit easier for us, so we can change it easier. So we're going to do int speed equals, and then we're going to name it 2. And then wait for it to save. Okay. And then down here, well, where it says like the velocity stuff, set that to speed. And if it has a negative in front of it, then leave it there. So speed, 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 speed. I'm just gonna copy and paste it. And yeah, so that should be it. And then we can just change it easier. It's kind of simpler. We can change it to 5 and then run it, and he'll go faster and stuff like that once it loads. Come on. There we go. So now it moves a little bit faster. But we're going to set it back to 2. There we go. So what we're going to do next is we're going to add in a new entity. So we're going to name it enemy. So create a new class, type in enemy, and finish it. And then just like we did for the player, since it has like an X and Y coordinates and stuff like that, we're going to do extends entity. And then we're going to have to make the constructor. So add that in. And then do public void update. And then public void draw. And then put graphics 2D G2D in here. And then we're going to do the same thing we did last time with the player. We're going to get an image for it. I'm actually just going to copy and paste it. It's kind of simpler. Okay. And then for the path, we'll change this. I'm just going to use like a random picture for right now. Eventually, I'm going to give this I'm going to give you guys pictures to download for the game. So we'll go into. Let me find a picture really quick. Hold on a second. Okay, here we go. Alright, maybe not. Alright, we're just making a random picture. It doesn't matter. Alright, let's see. Sorry about this. Didn't really have a picture planned out, but whatever. Well, we're just going to use a player again. Whatever, it doesn't matter. We'll just leave it like this. I'm just going to use a player again. So then, what we're going to do here is we're just do g2d dot draw image once it loads, and then get enemy img, and then the x comma y comma null. And the reason we have x and y there is because it takes in the parameters. Oops. Make sure you add the parentheses. It takes in 2 parameters, and then it uses the entity class to set them. So we're actually using these 2. But then we're just gonna leave it like that for right now. So we're gonna go back to our game frame, and then do we'll add in a new enemy. So we do enemy e equals new enemy. We'll do 20. No, we'll do 200 by 400, and then do e dot draw g2d. Now if you run it, you should have a second player on there, or picture, which is right down here, and you can run into him, stuff like that. But we're gonna make it so you can't, or if you do run into it, he's gonna get deleted. So first, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make something called an Arraylist. And what an Arraylist is practically it's an array, but it doesn't have a set limit. An Arraylist can go on forever practically. So in Arraylist, you'd start off with doing Arraylist and then the class name, so enemy. Then close that, and we'll name it enemies equals new array list. Then the same class enemy, and then end it with that. So now you should have this right here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add in a method to add to that list, so we can add in more enemies and stuff like that whenever we want. So we'll do public void add enemy, and then we'll do then we're just taking the parameter of the enemy so we can add it to it, because this array list is holding the enemy classes. So then we're going to take the parameter enemy e, and we're going to do enemies dot add and then e. You should get no errors. It's not really necessary, but it's a good practice. And then in here we're going to do we're going to add in a new random variable. So we're going to do random r equals new random. Actually, I'm going to use rand, and then you're going to have to import that. These should be your imports so far. If you just want to look at that really quick, you can pause it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do for int, we're going to make a for loop I, which equals 0. Let's make a new variable int enemy count, which equals, this is going to be the number of enemies we have on the screen at a time. So first we'll do like 5. So we're going to do int I equals 0, I is less than enemy count I plus plus, and then so what we're going to do here is we're going to do, this is going to do it, this is a loop. Practically what it's saying is it's going to run this loop. How let me explain this. First we set this variable to 0, I is to 0, and then it's going to run it 5 times because we have the enemy count set to 5. So first it's going to start off at 1, and then first it's going to start off at 0, and then it's going to be added, like 1's going to be added to it. It's going to go on for 5 times. So then we're going to do add enemy, and then we're calling this function right here, method, add enemy, new enemy, and then we're going to add in like a random number from 0 to however big the x and the y are, which is going to be 800 by 600. So we're going to do new enemy, and then rand dot next int, and then inside of that, alright, then inside of that, as a parameter, put the x, I think is 800, yeah, x is 800. Do I have too many things here? And then comma rand dot next int 600. So now what this is doing is it's running this command 5 times because we have the enemy count set to 5. If we set it to 7, it would run it 7 times. And then what it's doing then is it's going to add a new enemy to this enemies list, which we're going to use later. And for the x and y coordinates as parameters, it's going to pick a random number between 0 and 800 and 0 and 600 for the y. So then what we're going to do is we are going to do down here in the paint method, we're going to do we're going to make another loop for int I, which equals 0. Oh, and the variable, it's once the loop ends, this variable, like if we went to do I equals 5, it get an error because the variable is only initiated or made in this for loop. So we're going to do for int I is less than, then we're going to call enemies dot size, so the size of the enemies list, I plus plus. So it's going to run this however many times, or how many, if there's 5 enemies inside of the enemies list, then it's going to run it 5 times. If there's 10, it's going to run it 10 times. And then we're going to do enemy, this is like a temp variable, we're going to name it enemy temp enemy equals enemies dot get and then I. So what this is doing is it's gonna run this however big the enemy size is, and then it's going to create a temp enemy, which we're going to use right now. So we're going to do temp enemy dot draw. We're going to call the draw method G2D. And what it's doing here is it's getting whatever the value of I is, that location in the array list, and then it's going to draw to it. So if we run it now, it should paint 5 players randomly around the screen. So there's 5 for right now. There's 5 right now. And it's random the whole time. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add in collisions. So go to the player class and go to the very bottom. We're going to add a new method. We're going to name it public. Make sure you put rectangle get bounds. And this method is going to return a rectangle. And we're going to use this as the bounds, and I'll explain why in a second. So just do return new rectangle x comma y comma and then call the get player image dot get width null comma, and I'm just going to copy and paste this line right here for make it easier. Get height null. And you're going to have to implement, or you're going to have to import the rectangle class, which is right here. So what this is doing is it's gonna make a new rectangle, okay, and it's gonna draw it around wherever the player is. So the first parameter it's taking, the first 2 is the x and y coordinates, and then the second is the width of the rectangle and the height. So we're getting the width of the image right here, and then we're getting the height of the image. So it's going to be however big this image is, practically. And we're going to use that to check for collisions. Copy and paste this right here, and then go to the enemy, and do just paste it right in here. And then we're going to change this to enemy and enemy. So now, I'm just going to show you what I mean by the bounds and stuff like that. So do g2d.draw get bounds, and then copy and paste this into the players too, and the draw method. Whoops. And now if you run it, it should have a little black square around each one. So what we're going to do is we're going to check if these 2 black squares intersect each other, then it's going to do whatever we tell it to. So yeah, so you can just take that part out, or you can comment it out, or whatever you want to do for future reference. Because eventually we can make the bounds not as big, so it's more I'll show you. Well, let me explain. It's hard to explain. We're gonna make it so there's not so much space in between. There's so much space right here. We're gonna make it so that there isn't that much space eventually. But for now, we're just gonna get this finished really quick. So now in the make a new method called public void check collisions. And now we actually need to add a new method to the game frame. We're gonna make a static method. Public static void get enemy list. And then it's gonna we have to change the void to Arraylist enemy, because we're gonna be returning the enemies array list. So return enemies. So oh crap. Hold on a second. Alright, yeah. Make sure you put static up here too, in front of the where we initialize the variable. So what this is doing is it's a new method that gives us the enemies array list. So go back to the player, and because it's static, we type the class name, which is GameFrame, dot, and then get enemy list. And we actually have to make this do array list enemies equals, and then it's going to set whatever it's going to set this variable right here to this right here, so we get all of the enemies that are on the screen already. And then we're going to make another for loop. So for int I, which equals 0, I is less than enemies dot size I plus plus, and then do if get bounds dot intersects enemies dot get I dot get bounds. Then and then just end that if statement right there. So the rectangle class comes with an intersect method, which makes it easy to check for collisions with this. Like, there's two types of collisions. There's this rectangle collision type of thing, and then there's pixel perfect, which is kind of more advanced, and we don't really need it for right now. We can just keep it at this. But so practically it's saying if the player rectangle, that little black box around the player, touches or intersects, goes into the enemy's little rectangle, then do whatever in here. So we're going to do if getBounds.intersects enemies.getI.getBounds. We're going to do enemies.getI. Actually, you know what we can do? Let's just make this easier on ourselves. We can do enemy e or temp enemy equals enemies.getI, and then you can just do temp enemy. That just makes it easier for us to understand stuff like that. And then we'll do right here. So what we want to do when the player touches the enemy, we want the enemy to get removed from the screen. So we're going to remove it from the enemy's. We're going to remove it from the array list where we draw everything. So we actually have to add a new method in. We're going to do public static void remove enemy enemy e, because we need to take in the parameter. Do enemies dot remove e, and now go back to the player and then do game frame dot remove enemy, and then type temp enemy as the parameter. So now if you run it, oh wait, we need to put, hold on 1 second, go up to the update method and put in check collisions. So it checks for the collisions. Forgot to do that. So now if you run it, it should remove them when it touches it. See, touch, 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 touch. So that's the collisions video, and I'll be back with another video soon. I don't know what we'll be doing yet. I'm probably going to start making the actual game and get over with this collision stuff. So comment, rate, subscribe. See you guys later.